First, let me start by saying I apologise that it's been about 5 months since my last Fallout 3 video. Simply because I wanted this video to be next, and truth be told, I had no idea how long it would take to record, given the setup that was required to pull this off in Fallout 3 in particular. That said, I think I've kept you all waiting long enough, so without further ado, today's the day we finally find out, can you beat Fallout 3? As a group. The rules will be the exact same as the last 3 videos under the group banner. I myself am not allowed to engage in combat in any way, and I must try and recruit as many of the game's permanent companions as possible before beginning the main story. To jump very far ahead here, the initial idea was that I'd planned to play through Broken Steel as well, seeing how some of the followers, such as Fawkes, don't join you until near the end of the game, but that ended up not happening for the strangest of reasons. I'll also mention, unlike Fallout 4, Skyrim and New Vegas with hardcore turned off, companions can actually die in Fallout 3. Granted, I'm not all that worried about this, as some of them have an absolutely absurd amount of health, to the point where it is nigh impossible for that to happen. Now, with all that out of the way, let's begin. Starting at the vault entrance, I get to assign my special stats, and I empty all of my points from strength, agility, and luck, as they are primarily combat specials that I won't be using, and put all the remaining points into endurance, charisma, intelligence, and perception. All these specials will give me a slight boost of skills that I may find useful going forward, and then intelligence simply to get the most skill points as possible to assign every level. For my tag skills, I go with barter, speech, and explosives. Barter and speech to get better prices on certain companions, and cheaper healing supplies, and then explosives so I can immediately disarm the bomb and megaton for a bunch of caps and a free level. Exiting the hole in the ground, I level up and put every single point into speech before taking the Swift Learner perk, because for as much as I love this game, I will be the very first person to tell you that a majority of the early game perks are about as useful as an ashtray on a motorcycle. My persuasive ways come in quite handy right away, as I convince Silver to part with 400 caps that I'll be making use of very shortly. It's probably about time that I actually go over a few of the small annoyances of attempting this run in Fallout 3. First off, almost every single companion requires you to have a certain karma before they'll buddy up with you, whether that's good, evil, or neutral. What this means is that I will need to be constantly lowering and raising said karma continuously throughout the run just to recruit different people. My eyes are currently set on Jericho and Megaton, as he's the closest companion to my current location and requires evil karma as well as 1000 caps. Hence the reason I am getting as much money as possible right out of the gate. Truth be told, the money isn't all that difficult to come by, as I already have the 400 from Silver, and then I can charm my way to get another 500 out of Lucas Sims, bringing my total up to 900. I can then sell any items I loaded from the vault, or Silver's house, to Moira to easily make up the last 100. Problem is, I am currently at good karma thanks to disarming the bomb, so I now need to find ways to lower it if I want any hope of bringing along Jericho. For now, I just decided to go from building to building and take everything that isn't nailed down. It took a while, but it eventually worked, and after finding our man, could recruit him to the cause and begin to get the ball rolling. I also gave him some eyeglasses for the time being, simply because I thought he'd look like Walter White, and that's funny to me. Anyway, I figured the next companion I should pick up is Dogmeat, as after all he has no karma requirement, plus, unlike Fallout 4, he is in his own category when it comes to followers, so he can be by your side even if you have someone else without any glitches. Having Jericho along for the ride certainly makes things a bit more interesting. His Chinese assault rifle, while incredibly inaccurate at times, is effective at tearing through other low-level raiders and bloatflies. Bloatflies in particular he seemed to have a vendetta against, as he would never leave them alone for the rest of the run. If there was ever one nearby, you could be certain that Jericho was in hot pursuit. By the time I arrive in the scrapyard, Dogmeat had already finished off his attackers. Works for me as I loot the bodies for selling purposes and then recruit the bestest boy to the crew. Alright, so it's from this point where things actually begin to get tedious, as I now need to use a specific glitch multiple times in order to recruit the rest of the companions, as like the rest of the games you're only limited to one at a time, Dogmeat of course withstanding. The glitch in question revolves entirely around Sergeant RL3, so that means I would not only need neutral karma, but also another 1000 caps to boot. Well, raising karma is actually incredibly simple, as all I need to do is go to my robot butler, demand he hands over as much purified water as he can, and then I can give it to Mickey outside of Megaton for a substantial amount of good boy points. With a neutral karma, all I would need now is the funds, and after selling all of the former raider supplies to Moira, I had just under 400, so now it was time to find a way to make up the difference. I started by getting the supplies from the hollowed out rock around the back of the town, as well as letting Dogmeat and Jericho have their fun with some nearby mole rats, whose squishy bits I also procured for some much needed moolah. I didn't really have a great sense of where to go for more money right now, so I figured I might as well start making my way for Tenpenny Tower. This is because RL3 is in that general direction, plus the tower itself has many vendors, and therefore many caps to be made. As many people are expected to come this way right from the start thanks to our resident Michael Myers enthusiast Mr. Burke, many of the encounters are that of a low level. Well, I say that, but I actually ended up stumbling on one of the game's many random events. The one in question being the trader with a Deathclaw gauntlet schematic accompanied by a weakened low-level Deathclaw. It wasn't hostile at first, which presented a small issue, but fortunately, as I got within swiping distance, it became aggressive, and from there it wasn't long before bites and bullets put it down. We will just count ourselves lucky that its legs appeared to be crippled, otherwise I may not have survived. The strange encounters didn't stop there, as almost right after we came across a few Brotherhood outcasts minding their own business. Unfortunately for them, their laser weapons fetch a very high price from most merchants, so after purposely failing a few pickpocket attempts, they turned hostile, and now it was time for Jericho and Dogmeat to prove their worth. Turns out, despite all of their edgy armour, outcasts are in fact very squishy people. It took less than 20 seconds for them to be put down, and I was in such disbelief that I made sure to check the difficulty was still on normal. After looting them of all their valuables, I gave Jericho a set of their armour, just to give him a little bit of cushion going forward. From here it was smooth sailings to Tenpenny Tower, where I may have used the same pickpocket tactic on Roy Phillips to speed the entry process along, but that's not important. What is important is going around all the various shops and vendors and handing over all of my valuables until I had just over 1000 caps and can now show you exactly how to recruit multiple companions. Keep in mind I am on console, so I have no idea whether this glitch works on PC. I am certain that someone will be able to verify in the comments. Anyway, I head over to Tinker Jew, and when I'm there I tell Jericho to wait and then dismiss him back to Megaton. Making sure I have neutral karma, I then recruit RL3 as normal. I then need to wait a bit for Jericho to make his way back to Megaton, and once he does, I lower my karma once again thanks to stealing, and then go to find him at Moriarty's. This is now the part of the glitch you'll need to do every time you want a new follower. You must tell RL3 to wait, which will automatically end dialogue with him. You then want to speak with him again, and say not just yet, I want to talk about something else. This will then bring up the menu where you can fire him, do so, then agree to dismissing him. Naturally, this has freed up a companion slot, therefore you can recruit Jericho. As of right now, this is nothing special. You then need to wait up to 7 in-game days, or until you get the message saying that RL3 has returned to Canterbury Commons. When this happens, make sure to once again reset your karma to neutral by quickly shoving bottles down Mickey's throat, and then, should everything have worked correctly, when you speak with RL3 at Canterbury Commons, the karma option should be there to recruit him, and he will agree to follow you, not acknowledging your other companions. I will need to do this with every follower going forward, so with no time to lose, it was off to Underworld to recruit the best companion in the game. Please don't at me. As the DC area in Fallout 3 is a maze crafted by a masochist, this means I will need to travel down to the metro tunnels and hopefully pick the right tunnel that will lead me to the mall, lest I wish to go insane as I spring around the random parts of the downtown area like a hyperactive whack-a-mole. Fortunately, I have some experience with Fallout 3, probably more than the other games combined if I'm being honest, so I know that just across the river from Grandma Sparkles, I can find an entrance that will get me into the underworld rather quickly. I do have to run away from Satan on the way there, so nothing too out of the ordinary for the time being. The tunnels are primarily filled with mole rats, raiders, and the occasional feral ghoul, so in other words, my 3 companions will be fighting each other more than anything else to find the space to increase their body counts. The most noteworthy foe was a unique raider named Rock Salt, and while she may have been difficult, I can't really say as she was stuck in the middle of a death sandwich and promptly eaten by Dogmeat. To refrain from repeating myself, know from this point on that I am looting every single enemy and valuable material or item I can find, as I know out of the remaining companions I still have to dish out about 1500 caps in recruitment fees. Just thought I should mention this so I don't have to tell you all in detail about how I had to travel back and forward between Megaton and Tenpenny Tower, just to empty my inventory multiple times to multiple vendors in order to afford more friends. Experience is very hard to come by in Fallout 3 when you refrain from killing, so I make do with what I can get this run and disarm all the mines that are littering the sewers just to have a chance of reaching the next level. Resurfacing and we arrive at Georgetown, which primarily served as our first encounter with super mutants. This could have proven difficult, you know, but lucky for us, Jericho doesn't play by the rules of mere mortals, and therefore can just shoot straight through walls while also using cover to avoid any counterattacks by this brute. Needless to say, it takes a bit for him to kill him from this distance, but rest assured, he was never at risk of losing this fight. Into the sewers part 2, and wouldn't you know it, it's just more raiders, or how I see them right now, more walking bags of caps. After this quick distraction, we emerge just outside the Lincoln Memorial, and can make our way safely to Underworld. Or at least we do after I provoke some Brotherhood soldiers into a fight via theft, resulting in, you guessed it, more death, supplies, and money. Having a high enough barter skill allows me to convince the rectangular face shaped ghoul that Charon would be better off with me. He reluctantly agrees as I slide 1000 caps across the table, and sadly, despite the fact Charon wipes him out after the fact, I am not allowed to retrieve my money from the corpse's corpse. With Charon now available for conscription, I repeat the RL3 glitches before, give Charon some extra protection as a gesture of goodwill, and then begin the tedious process of waiting to get the pop-up message. It's times like this I really wish we could just wait as fast as we could back in Morrowind. After getting my robot back, there is only one other companion available at this point in the story, and that's Crazy Clover up in Paradise Falls. It's required that you have an evil karma to purchase Clover, but after that you can recruit her no matter what. It was also here that I found a very quick and simple way to earn evil points that wouldn't involve me tapping into my inner kleptomaniac. Back in Moriarty's saloon, I just enter through the back door and repeatedly access Moriarty's terminal, as each time you do so, you gain negative karma, so thankfully it takes less than a minute to reach the threshold, and now for once in my life, it was off to Paradise Falls without the intention to emancipate. The gang continues to prove their combat effectiveness on the road ahead. However, our journey was nearly cut short by a secretive super mutant with a missile launcher hiding out in the back of an old truck. Thankfully, he didn't get a direct hit on anyone, and only Jericho was left in a bad shape due to getting caught in the blast radius. Afterwards, through the power of teamwork and the mutant's own reluctance to blow his feet off, the crew dealt the finishing blow, and from there was a relatively simple trek to Paradise Falls. Thanks to my negative karma, Groose lets me in without any hassle, and once more I barter my way for a 50% off coupon on slaves and can obtain Clover for only 500 caps. One robot glitch later and we're able to diversify the team a little bit, and after gearing her up with a bit of combat armor, not that she needs it by the way, the woman is deadly with her sword and shotgun combo, we can then go recruit RL3, and now with every permanent follower I can possibly have for the time being, it's time to begin the main story. Or at least it should be, but I decided why not pick up a couple of the companions of the non-permanent variety. The three that immediately come to mind are Red, Shorty, and Sticky. So, with that, it's time to get ready for a prison break rescue. Trying to remember some of the basics of CQC, as it turns out the group are very good when it comes to close quarters. At least for now anyway. Once the whole party is present, things will no doubt get a lot more cluttered. It's not long before the halls of the station are painted red and green with the remains of our enemies, and we make our way to Shorty and then Red in record time. Interesting thing about these type of quest related limited time followers is that they do not heal automatically after every battle like the rest of us do. What this means is that I will need to make sure that they have some stim packs to heal themselves with should I want them to survive for more than 5 minutes. After supplying them with the means to defend themselves, all that was left was to make my way for Lamplight and find Sticky. On the bright side, this does let me mark Smithcase's garage and Lamplight as fast travel points for later, so I should at least breeze through the later part of the game. I came across another random event on the way, this one definitely more interesting than the last, as I witnessed 4 raiders surrounding a lone naked raider while they took turns giving him his lumps. The initiation was cut short as we appeared over the horizon and swiftly dealt with the situation. On the bright side, we did get some new gear for Shorty, so that's neat. Coming face to face with a young friend from the Fallout 4 group video, and I have more than enough points in speech to easily make my way inside and find the man we're looking for. Sticky is probably the only companion who isn't actually worth having along for the ride, simply because his incessant whining really just brings down the party's mood. He's kinda like a reverse bard in that way, I suppose. Okay, now it was officially time to begin the story, and rather than skip it, I will be following it as close as you would on your first playthrough, just to get the most mileage out of the group, as well as having access to more quests, and therefore more experience. What this means is we find ourselves travelling through the Farragut West Station, which proved to be a mistake. Sure, this is usually the easiest of any of the underground sections, as after all, you would normally find yourself here around level 2. But being overconfident proved to be our downfall. Or perhaps being too gung-ho was the real culprit, as while the group carelessly fired away, taking down feral ghouls and mole rats, a few too many shots missed their targets and made contact with a nearby generator, putting it in critical condition. This then caused the device to explode, and unfortunately, Red, Shorty and Sticky were all caught in the blast. Red barely managed to survive and was able to fix herself up. Shorty and Sticky though, yeah, they got cooked. To remember their valiant efforts, I took Sticky's party hat and wore it for the rest of the run. Meeting up with the Lion's Pride, and despite being down 2 whole members, we still managed to show them up in the coming battle as we easily swept our way through the mutants and all the way to the plaza without even breaking a sweat. Next up is the Behemoth fight. While I could have handed the nearby fat man to one of the team to speed along the fight, just think for a moment. Considering their inaccuracies in the metro tunnels, would you want to hand them a fat man? They are honestly more likely to kill themselves than anything else, so I passed on that opportunity and decided to see how they would fare with their base weapons. The fight actually doesn't last all that long, which is surprising. I am not entirely certain who landed the killing blow, but I think it was Clover with her sawn-off shotgun. Regardless, I give her the reward from the creature's belly, that being the Scope 44 Magnum, and as such, with the day saved, it was on for more fetch quests before continuing with the main quest. I am of course referring to 3Dog, who sends me off to destroy pieces of history so they can fix his radio station. Watching the group fight their way to the Museum of Technology was actually a lot of fun. It's great to see how strong the group is becoming with each new member, as they battle their way through the trenches and work together to cut a path through the seemingly never-ending wave of super mutants. They do tend to get distracted by less important enemies though. The workaround for this was having me sprint headfirst into danger, as more often than not, they would stop what they were doing and come to my rescue if I was being targeted. Compared to that, you would think the Museum of Technology would be a walk in the park. And you would be correct. At least it was for everyone, but poor Red, whose limited health finally caught up to her, as even with stim packs she couldn't heal through her head, getting turned into a soggy football. Honestly, given how little it took to take out Shorty and Sticky, I'm shocked that Red lasted as long as she did. We briefly mourn the loss of Death Number 3, grab the dish, take the only working elevator in the game to our destination, install said dish, and then return to 3 Dog for some information of where to go next on this wild goose chase. As I've already been to Underworld, I can fast travel back there and use the metro tunnels right outside to emerge right at the entrance to Rivet City. I then quickly get the info I need from Lee before walking down the street to the Jefferson Memorial and letting the gang partake one more time in everyone's favourite pastime, mutant hunting. I of course grab the holotapes I need to advance while inside, but I also make sure to head down to the basement and clear out any of the stragglers, just so Qui-Gon won't ask me to do it later. Keeping up with the breakneck pace, I once again use my previous explorations to my advantage as I immediately fast travel to the garage, and after going a little overboard on the ordnance needed to take out some mole rats and roaches, can enter the simulation, summon the Chinese, and rescue Dad. This then puts us ever closer to our last few soldiers. I do need to make sure to get everyone to follow me again though when I get back out. Thank God I just need to ask them to follow. Could you imagine if I had to go back and repeat the recruitment process and glitch all over again? That would be maddening. We all know the first part of the quest of Project Purity is just running back and forth pretending to be a scientist, so let's move on to when the Enclave arrive. To be fair, they weren't even the most difficult part. Trying to maneuver around my small army in the drainage pipe was honestly the most difficult task I had to do here. If I have said it once, I have said it 100 times in these Fallout 3 runs, the Enclave are the biggest pushovers in the Capital Wasteland simply because the developers didn't want to punish the hell out of players who just beeline the main story. This means my group of heavily armoured soldiers tear through the other group of heavily armoured soldiers. For her efforts, I finally awarded Clover with her own suit of power armour. I would have given her one of the spare sets of Outcast armour I grabbed near the start of the run, but I like the idea of everyone wearing something different, just so you can hopefully all understand who is who from a glance. Back to the plot, Liam Neeson finally kicks the bucket and leaves the recording booth, and therefore the remainder of the budget can be spent on level design, as now it's time to lead through the sewers. The slaughter continues as while Lee tries to hack a computer, everyone else decides to rush headlong into danger and take the fight to the Enclave. Even after the door was open, my little bloodthirsty children stayed around until the final Enclave soldier was dead. Pressing on through the sewers and we're out by the Citadel in no time at all. But then we had to go back because Garza had a heart condition. Oh no. To be fair, this was actually a blessing in disguise. The positive karma from helping him would be enough for me to get Star Paladin Cross, my next companion, to join the team. After travelling through the sewers 1.5 times, we make our way into the Citadel, and I get frozen in place, thanks to the Elder, and have to sit through this cutscene. It's not all bad though, we get to watch Dogmeat do some tippy taps with his little feets, and that's just adorable. So funny enough, there's actually a second multiple companions glitch that actually works with Star Paladin Cross. It's not something you can repeat like RL3's glitch, but rather it's something you can do when you speak to her for the first time, should you already have the karma requirements for her and a companion by your side. All you have to do is be nice about your dad when the topic of him comes up and then select the option that says, I don't suppose I could stop you, followed by I would be honoured, and just like that, one more meat shield added to the line of duty. We're now reaching the end point of the story, so that means it's back to Lamplight, albeit this time we're a lot less sticky. That said, we can also pick up another companion before we go. At this stage, we're allowed back into Vault 101 to help with the trouble on the Homefront quest. Now, there are multiple ways to go about this, but I just go with the fastest possible way that produces the outcome that we need. As soon as I'm in, I head down to the reactor and pickpocket the terminal password off of Stanley, and after mashing my fist against some buttons for a few seconds, I can destroy part of the vault, rendering it uninhabitable and forcing all of the residents to leave. I just convince the Overseer and Amada that it's someone else's fault, and just like that, another simple quest done. Our final companion is Butch, the old school bully and grease enthusiast, who will now be hanging around the Muddy Rudder in Riverton. Riverton? Where the fuck is Riverton? Rivet City! Thankfully, Butch just requires neutral karma. Again, easily reset via Moriarty's terminal, and after confusing RL3 yet again, I can add the delinquent to the team. I have currently run out of power armor variants to make people look different, so Butch will be getting the short end of the stick and just have combat armor instead. He is also by far the worst of the lot, as he is the only one who has a limited amount of ammo for his gun, that being a 10mm pistol, and should it run out, he'll resort to using his switchblade, and something tells me this won't get him very far through Vault 87. I just give him what weapons and ammo I currently have on me, and hope for the best. Only one follower left to go, and as it turns out we will get him after this quest, so everything is falling into place. The massacre begins the instant we set foot in the vault. It's evident by how quickly the initial trio of super mutants are dealt with, just how the rest of the vault will go. In fact, we killed them so fast that the mutants were still talking from beyond the grave.
Now you're starting to piss me off.
Fawkes, they men will come to us one day to take green stuff. Let them come to us. We'll take them apart. Then
all these dead mutants are actually wonderful for Butch, as now he could join Jericho as part of the Assault Rifle Club, as he would have a steady supply of ammo for it. Like the previous group videos before them, the team are working as an incredibly well-oiled machine, as we have both effective melee and ranged fighters. Or, just Charon, who despite having a shotgun, is still seemingly able to snipe mutants from far outside of his weapon's range. Freeing Fawkes and beating up the other unfortunate test subjects is child's play. I do, however, ask Fawkes to give me his unique super sledge and give it to Clover. He will eventually get a Gatling laser, so we'll have no need for it, whereas Clover has been doing so well that I believe she's entitled to a better weapon. Fawkes, despite craving his freedom, does very little in the way of shortening his time here as he walks very slowly towards the Gek. Not having time for his shenanigans and knowing full well he'll get stuck behind the group, I opted to just go ahead and get the Gek myself. A very important thing to do here is to send RL3 away before grabbing the thing, because according to the wiki, if I don't, he will either become lost or the glitch will stop working, neither of which are ideal. I was then somehow, and I really do stress somehow, kidnapped by Colonel Autumn and his 2 guards. We all know the group should have torn them to shreds, so I guess they all just decided to take a sabbatical when I wasn't looking. Running through Raven Rock is nothing to bother going over. I can't attack or do anything without my team, so I just run, jump and heal my way through the Enclave soldiers before convincing Eden that this is indeed a bad idea. And it is right when I escape that the run begins to fall apart. Fawkes is nowhere to be found. Okay, so this has happened before, so I just wait a few days and make my way to the Museum of History, and nope, he still isn't there. Turns out if you get the Gek yourself without his help, even if you have freed him, Fawkes will just sometimes not show up anymore and can just disappear. I looked online and found a bunch of people with the same issue. It's a pain, but the easiest solution is to load back to right before I picked up the Gek, wait for Fawkes to do it instead, and then run through Raven Rock yet again. It goes pretty much the same, except this time Fawkes is actually outside. I lack the karma requirements to get him now, so I quickly go and feed the homeless as well as pick up the rest of the crew on the way, and when I get to him, I can recruit him. Wonderful. Except not quite. He is on the team technically given the dialogue options he has, but under no circumstances will he move from this spot. I tried changing his tactics, firing and rehiring him, loading old saves, and even giving him back his super sledge to make sure he wasn't being petty, and all of it changed nothing. So, no matter what, Fawkes is stuck here and will not budge. It's a shame, but like I said, in a weird way he's still a follower, so maybe if I finish the final mission, he would get teleported to the Citadel at the beginning of the Broken Steel and fix himself. It seemed like a long shot, but it was currently my only choice, so that's what I did. As this is really a follow the leader mission for like 80% of it, there isn't a whole lot for us to do. I did get a really nice shot of us all running down the bridge together, just pretend that Fawkes is here as well. For what it's worth, I did do my best to push on ahead and not fall behind in the hopes that we could do some damage before Prime stole all the kills. And for a while it worked, but he is one deadly robot and always gets his target. Autumn and his 2 guardsmen before are no match for the power of friendship, it would seem. The Colonel in particular probably should have worn something more protective than a coat if he wanted to survive being Dogmeat's personal chew toy. Now it's decision making time and I go around my companions, seeing who wants to jump into the glowing bathwater. Naturally, as you might expect, all the human characters decline, leaving only Fawkes, Charon and RL3. Well, Fawkes is a few miles away, so he's out, and I used RL3 to do this more recently than Charon, so I figured it's Charon's turn once again to absorb the rads. Besides, radiation heals ghouls, so if anything, this should make him healthier. I mentioned at the beginning that I couldn't do Broken Steel, and this is why. The ending scene here played out as normal, but then, right after the slideshow finished, before the game could even display the 2 weeks later message to start Broken Steel, this happened.
I suppose this is... goodbye, friend. But, I would say, cycle!
It seems like Fawkes has reached me from beyond the grave and has pulled me into purgatory with him. In all seriousness, while this is hilarious and something I did not see coming, I tried this multiple times and every time it caused the game to crash. With that, I suppose the run ends here, and I think it's possible to beat Fallout 3 as a group. I mean, Fawkes was technically there in spirit form, I guess. In my spare time, I am definitely going to try and fix this save, to try and not only get Fawkes to follow, but also make it so he doesn't nuke the ending, and therefore find a way to Broken Steel. Should I manage to find a way, I will upload the Broken Steel as a group as its own bonus video. Regardless, that's going to be the end of this challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider giving the video a like, and if you're interested in more challenges in the future, feel free to subscribe. Try to have one of these videos out every week. My name's Nerbit, so everyone, I'll see you all in the next video.